Hi, it's me, Bill Patton here, 30-year tennis pro who has mastered the visual game and wrote the book, Visual Training for Tennis. At the end of this video, you'll see some offers down below, but for now, let's dive right into the 3 most common and catastrophic mistakes that cause frustrating errors and can sometimes make you think like you're losing your mind. Number 1. The first one might not be the most dramatic, but it is the most important and most common mistake. Almost universally, every single new client I get on the court fails to pay attention to the ball coming out of the opponent's strings. People think that they're doing this, but in reality, they casually glance that way, but then they pick up the ball after it has traveled quite a distance. Some people don't pick up the ball visually until it's crossed the net. This can put you at an amazing disadvantage because you'll find yourself in panic situations, surprised that the ball's already there at your feet, or way over there as you scurry in a panic to go get it. On the other end of the spectrum, once you've learned how to hit the ball, everything else is about having enough time to get in the best possible position for a shot and taking time away from your opponent so they can't hit the ball the best possible way. The solution is to be sure to scan the other side of the court. After you finish your shot, there's actually a lot of time to see your opponent hit their shot. You don't have to have hard focus, but you do need to make sure that you see the opponent and the ball coming out of their strings. Vic Braden, a legendary tennis coach, shared that by the time the ball comes out of your frame by 2 feet, your brain with 95% accuracy can calculate where it will land. That means you know within a few feet where the ball is coming to immediately after that ball is struck, but only if you're paying attention to that moment. Your brain passively calculates where the ball is going using all the cues from the speed and the trajectory of the swing to whether it was a mishit and the relative balance, position, and movement of the opponent. Whatever you do, avoid trying to think about all that stuff. Just really hone in on seeing the ball come out of the string. You can do something like say hit at the moment that your opponent hits the ball, and that can really help you. The next thing to do is initiate your footwork with a great unit turn, which means to turn your body in the direction of the shot and go. When you start on time, then you won't find yourself getting there late as often. There is no early, but we're going to get into that in another solution. 2, I know you know the feeling of devastation that comes when you felt like you had pinpoint vision of the ball. You saw it great, then all of a sudden your shot is in the net. Realize that you lost sight of it in a gray out, also known as a saccade. It can make you feel like there's something wrong with you, but no, you don't have to worry about that. I know the pain of missed volleys and overhead, especially the ones where I was in position for a winner and instead made an error in the facial expression of my doubles partner. The problem is that you and I were using the wrong kind of visual skill. Instead of trying to keep a focused pinpoint vision, which leads to saccadic motion of the eyes, where they shake for a moment and you lose everything, use tracking skills. Now, my definition of tracking might be different than a medical definition, but humor me. I define tracking as your mind's amazing ability to reconcile the blur of a moving object. And when you play tennis, the ball's mostly a blur, and the better you play, the more often it is. A great way to practice this is to place your eyes in the middle of the path of the ball and allow your eyes to see the blur go right into your frame. Yes, you can turn your head slightly, but avoid fast head motions, as that also compromises your vision. You can't see the ball in your strings, but you can see the blur go into them. Here's a little exercise I do where I hold a ball here, then I toss a ball across their field of vision, and they practice their volleying like that. And far fewer mistakes are made. Also, be sure to be still like a cat, instead of bouncing up and down like a jack-in-the-box, because that also compromises your vision of the ball. Be the cat. Wait very still, heels off the ground, and be ready to strike. Number 3, going too fast in your mind. There's something that people intuitively do, and unfortunately, the intuition is all wrong. Most players think that they have to rev up their mind and go fast because they have to keep up with the ball. In fact, the opposite is true. Remember that project you procrastinated on? Yeah, that one. You waited until the last minute. Then time seemed to speed up. The minute hand started to look like the second hand on the clock. Now apply that to a tennis court. When you allow your mind to race, the ball seems to be going faster. Remember, learning how to drive, and you know how that was nerve-wracking at first, but now it's much easier because you've learned to slow down and take your time. Going too fast at the baseline can lead to some needless errors. People feel like when they get to the net, they have to go doubly fast, which can lead to some dramatic shots, but also too many errors. One of my favorite practices is to say, there is so much time. There's so much research that shows that people whose brains are operating at slower speeds do better work, and those who are operating at higher speeds are nervous, upset, worried, making mistakes. So take your time and do it right. When you step on the court, say to yourself, I know how to drive this car. I'm going to take my time. Being calm and collected allows you to see greater detail. Combine this with number one on the court when you're at the net. See the ball coming out of the opponent's strings and wait for it to arrive. There's not enough time for pinpoint vision of the ball, but there is an amazing amount of time if all you have to do is attend to the blur of the trajectory of that incoming missile right into your strings. Well, I want to astonish you here because I promised you 3, but I wanted to give you another common devastating mistake is that people try to be always on, constantly focused in their minds. This is very stressful and tiring. What will happen again and again is that you have a lapse in concentration. Then you will berate yourself and say, focus, and like you're trying to drive your mind onward with a whip or something. Stop the mental flogging. Instead, take breaks. The ball is in play less than 20% of the time of the match. You have a lot of time to rest between every point and every changeover. Watch the pros. In between points, look how relaxed they are in their face. Jim Laird, one of the eminent sports psychologists in the world, came up with something called the 16-second cure. There are 4 things that you do. 1, let go of the previous point. 2, take a moment to relax. 3, plan the next point. 4, do a little ritual. Here I want to help you with number 2. Let your eyes go soft and don't try to focus. Instead, let go for a few seconds, mentally and physically. Let your arms dangle, walk like fed. Then, as you get yourself into your ritual gear, you can start to come into relaxed concentration, which is better than focusing anyway. It's a demanding work. Allow yourself to have relaxed concentration and everything's gonna be easier.